more love, more life, more profits. This is Love, Life, and Profit with your host, Andrew Potoshnik, helping entrepreneurs create the life they love and profit from it.
Welcome, everyone, to the Love, Life, and Profit podcast. I'm your host, Andrew Potoshnik, and today we have a very special guest. Today, my guest is the CEO and co-founder of Service Autopilot. Service Autopilot is the leading provider of professional field service management software serving multiple industries, including lawn care, janitorial, HVAC, and other field service professions. So it's my sincere pleasure to welcome Jonathan Potoshnik. Welcome, Jonathan. Thank you for joining us. How are you doing today?
I'm great. Thrilled to do this. Glad you asked me to do it.
Well, you know, you have a really unusual last name. What's your background?
My background is that I'm related to you.
Interesting. And what was it like growing up with somebody so successful and brilliant?
Who are we referring to? Because it's definitely not you.
Yes. So as the listeners might have imagined, we are related. We do have the same last name, and we grew up together. We're brothers. Jonathan is my elder brother, and
2 years apart.
2 years apart, and I thought it would be appropriate to have him as my very first guest on this podcast. Very, very brilliant entrepreneur. I quite admire what he's done with his career, and we often trade a lot of advice and have input on each other's businesses. So I wanted to share with the listeners today, Jonathan, all of the great advice that you've given me over the years and some of the incredible things that you've been doing with your business, Service Autopilot, over the past several years. So thank you very much. And why don't we start out with a little bit of background on Service Autopilot and what you guys do over there.
All right. So Service Autopilot is a software solution where we focus on the field service market. So these would be guys that are sending trucks out to your home, or they're sending trucks out to your business. They're dispatching a truck. So as Andrew said, this is everyone from a lawn care company to a cleaning company to pest control, pool care, and they're unique. The unique thing about each of these companies is, as I said, they send a truck and an individual or a crew to your home or business to take care of something for you. They have a unique challenge, a lot of unique challenges, and they have a lot of frustrations and stresses and everything that you have to deal with in a normal business. They have that, plus they have an incredible number of people running around out on the road in trucks. And so we are a company that brings all of that together and manages it. It manages everything from getting that initial lead all the way through taking care of them and billing them and then reporting on it and figuring out, was the work we even sold and the work that we performed, was it successful? Did we make money on it? And so we are what you would think of as a full business system for the small guy.
Great. And why is it important that a field service professional implement a piece of software to manage their business?
Well, it really all goes back to an overarching theme or concept, and that is that if you look at the typical business owner, so start with the data, and the data says that the vast majority of business owners will never break $1 million in a year. And so focusing on that for a moment, what does that mean? If $1 million sounds like a lot of money, yeah, it's a decent amount of money. It's really not that much. But if you're not even at the $1 million mark, and let me give you an example. In many industries, you will see less than 5% of businesses in that industry break $1 million. In some, for example, we do a lot of work in lawn care. You'll see maybe 9% of guys in the lawn care industry. And this would include lawn care, tree trimming, fertilization, weed control, landscape. So when I say lawn care, it's the big, massive service industry. And this is just one example. And you'll see maybe 9% of companies in that industry ever do $1 million in gross revenue, not profit, but just gross revenue. So when you do less than $1 million in gross revenue, what does that mean? I think that's the place to start here. What that means is that you have really no layers of management in your company, so you're the guy. Even if you're making a nice take-home paycheck, You don't have anybody running the company for you. Everything's still sort of on your shoulders. Yeah, you have office help. Yeah, you have a supervisor, maybe an operations manager, but there is no real business there. You haven't built it big enough to have the layers in the business to create a real business that can run without you, that you can go out and, Andrew, live a lifestyle like you do, where you get to travel and you get to do all these really cool things and have all these really cool experiences. Well, the vast majority of business owners can never do that because they've never built their business to a size that will support it. It's an impossibility. You've got to scale to a certain size to create that. And so that's what we are here to do is, one, help you run your business even when you're small, but help you get that business to a point that it's larger, that you can create what I call a real company. I mean, the point of business is to create an asset that generates revenue for you and gives you some form of a lifestyle. Whether you live that lifestyle right now or you choose to some degree defer the lifestyle a bit so that you can create something faster that creates bigger wealth that maybe you sell later. There's a couple choices on how you go about creating that asset. But at the end of the day, the purpose of business is to create an asset, a business that can to some degree run itself, which should be the goal, and then spins off a lot of money for you. And if you're not doing that, then all the alternatives are nothing but high-paid jobs, because you still have all the stress, all the frustration, and the wheel quits spinning the day you stop participating. And so we want to help entrepreneurs and business owners build that type of a business, what I described as a real business. And our software is here to facilitate that and help you get there. And even if you choose that you never want to go that direction, you don't want to build a real business, fine. We've built a business tool that will massively simplify your life and really reduce the pain and stress you would have normally had to go through, because we're facilitating a lot of what needs to get done within your business.
Why don't you give the listeners just a few ideas of some of the functionality that the software that you've developed provides to the end user, to the field service entrepreneur, that would really have a huge effect on his business?
Okay. So there's a lot of things, and everybody has a different opinion on maybe what is the most important thing to them. So I have my opinion, and this may not be the same answer that many of our members, we call our clients a member. So many of our members may have differing opinions on what part of the system is really impactful on them, but I think the way most business owners should think about this, and so my favorite part of the system is what I would call the job costing portion of the system. And the reason I think this is most important is because if you're going to build the type of business that I described, then you have to have a marketing engine within your business that brings business in the front door. And you need to then if you're going to do that, you have to be able to make wise decisions. You're buying marketing, whether it be on the web or in print, and you need to know how much money you can spend. So you need to understand what a client's worth to you. You need to understand who your good clients are. So that's element number one as I talk through this. Then number two is, once you win this business, you used marketing, hopefully you're using marketing, but somehow you brought on a new lead that turned into a client. Now that you have them, did you price that work right? When you estimated the work, did you do it correctly? Is this yielding the profit margin that you want within your business to give you the lifestyle that you want? Well, the only way you can answer the first question, how much money should I spend on marketing, what marketing's working, what's not working, which are my best clients, and then once you have the work, the only way you can answer the question on, is what we're doing as a company the right thing? Is it making us money, or should we be going in a different direction? Is by costing. And costing, to me, is the big feature. It's just one of the little bitty features, but it's the big feature. And the way we accomplish that is, we know everything you're supposed to do, when you're supposed to do it, how long it's supposed to take, and then we can compare that against what actually happened. So everyone within your company would, for example, have a mobile device. We'd be tracking their time, their drive time, the amount of time they're working, who was on the job site that day, and all these other factors effortlessly by just clicking a few buttons here and there. And then what that does is it builds this really incredible rich data behind the scenes that we can report off, and we can say, this job was good, this job was bad, you didn't hit your goals here, this client has been underperforming for the whole year. And with that, you can take action, and that's what matters. You can raise the price, you can adjust the price, you can fire a client that just can't be fixed, or you can say, you know what, where I thought I was making money from a marketing standpoint, that's not making me money. We need to shift our marketing spend to a different area. That's the type of stuff you get from costing, and that's why I would put it up there as one of the most important features that we have within the system.
If you look around at the type of applications being developed these days, specifically software as a service, applications that run in the cloud, I really see very, very few companies trying to solve really big problems. What I mostly see are teams of one or maybe two developers just building simple apps with only a few core features. So why didn't you just start the company as just a simple mobile app that lets you, send invoices to customers?
Yeah, I get that. I mean, this was a big debate on our part. When I say our part, I have a business partner. His name's John. We've worked together for years, and we've been in technology, and we love technology. And I got to say, that's the dream. We joke sometimes. It's like, why is it that every time we work on and building a system, and going back through the years and the different projects we work together, why do we always have to do something so hard? And I think one is we just both by nature like to solve real problems, hard problems. But as a developer, the dream is, we all want to drink the Kool-Aid as developers and think, oh, I can build something simple, fast, easy. It'll make me a fortune, and I'm only going to have to do so much work. And there are plenty of examples like that that exist in mobile apps and software applications. But it's just like everything else. You hear about the base camps of the world. You hear about the few very, very successful standout small projects that really did work and got a huge client base. But the vast majority of applications, the vast majority of mobile apps, vast majority of SaaS solutions, they never turn into anything. So the programmer's dream is, let's build the little thing, because that sounds easy. It's not going to take as much money. It's not going to take as much funding. There's so many reasons why that's the dream. My problem is, I've actually owned companies. I've owned multiple service companies, and I've had to go from nothing all the way up to huge numbers of employees and big revenue. And you quickly realize that this idea of running your business of even a moderate size with a little mobile app, or 5 different mobile apps and 3 different software solutions and QuickBooks and Excel spreadsheets, is an absolute disaster, and you'll never compete with your competitor down the street that's got his act together and he's got all of his data and all of his systems talking. And so I think the reason why we did this was we'd actually done this stuff before. We'd actually ran businesses, and we just look at it and say, yeah, that sounds great, but that doesn't really work in the real world. That is not the dream come true experience for the client. The client wants one system that can do it all. And yes, that's hard for us, but that's our job. Hard for us, easy for our client. And that's what we're supposed to create. So that's why we traveled that road, because the client at the end of the day needs that solution.
You just said something that just really stuck out in my mind. 2 words. You said, what is the client's dream scenario? And here on my computer monitor, I have a note, a little sticky note that says, what do your customers really want?
Yeah.
It's the same thing. What's their dream scenario? What do they really want? What are they trying to get? And, what you've done with your software is try and get them to that end goal and not give them a halfway solution. You're trying to give them the whole shebang, the whole kit and caboodle. And I think that's a really good point that you bring up, because if we focus on what our clients, what our customers' end goal is, what they're trying to get at, the true value of what they're trying to get, we can really develop even better solutions for them, whether it's a service offering or a product. So I think what you just said about keeping your eye on what is the client's dream scenario and developing towards that is a very, very good point.
Yeah, I'd add, Andrew, that so many guys go under, and I realize why most businesses fail. They fail because they don't bring enough sales in the front door. But at the same time, if more business owners and more businesses just had that attitude that we are going to deliver the dream come true solution for our client, what's very best, the thing that if we're going to solve that problem that keeps them up at night when they go to bed and they lay down and their mind won't stop turning, what's that thing that's making their mind spin, that's driving them nuts? And you solve that, you massively decrease your risk of failure in business because you're working on the right thing. And so it's just it's imperative. So many guys go under. So many guys are afraid they're not going to make it. So many guys are afraid I'll never build a big business. I'd argue that you probably can. If you get other ducks in a row, like cash flow marketing, you can if you're committed to working on the dream come true solution and solving the big fear and pain in clients' lives, you're going to fill a need, and you will be needed, and you will be viable.
When you're targeting the dream scenario, when you're targeting what your end client truly wants, it's more difficult to accomplish that. So it means more work. It means a bigger team. It means solving the bigger problem. So that's a great advice. So let's stay on this topic of technology just a little bit longer, because I think it's an important topic that entrepreneurs need to understand, especially those that are interested in software development, or they have an idea for a mobile app. Let's talk just briefly about, why did you decide to develop your software for the cloud? Why did you decide to create software as a service rather than an application that you would install on the end user's individual device, whether it's a Windows machine or OS X or a mobile device?
Really, it went back to where we thought everything was going. But in more than that, well, really, that was the first thing. Where's it all going? Because we don't want to be on the wrong side of history, I guess you'd say. I don't want to be wrong. And so we felt that was the direction everything was going. But bigger than that, think about what the dream is for the client. The dream is that they could live this really incredible, awesome lifestyle. Maybe they can't live it in the first 2 years of their business or 3 years because they're doing their time. But at some point, you want to be able to set yourself up in business where you can have some type of lifestyle, whatever your specific desire is. Maybe that means traveling. Maybe that means weekends off. Maybe it means extended vacations. Who knows? Well, to me, the way you facilitate that is you've got to be able to get to your stuff from anywhere. Or you don't want to only be able to access your system from the office or from home. You obviously want to get to it from a mobile device. I mean, this is an old story at this point. It's obvious that's what everybody wants. But that, too, was really the inspiration behind it, is what we need to solve is we need to provide a solution that would work for the remote workforce. What if you're a business owner and you say, you know what, most of the people in my office, nobody's ever going to meet them. Why can't I hire stay-at-home moms? Why can't I hire moms at homeschool? Why can't I hire moms in other states that were awesome professionals in the work world but never want to go back in the workforce and they could work for me? Well, that's another example of why you need a solution like this. So we just thought through that checklist of, here's the 20 things that we'd like our system to be able to do, and 19 of the 20 required they be a cloud-based system. That's what it be. Or that's what we build. So it was really, I think, a fairly easy decision. But we actually did toy with the alternatives, not so much desktop, but more of a thin client approach where there was a shell installed onto the computer and then a portion that actually lived in the cloud. And we decided to go pure SaaS. And so that was a decision. Now, I will say, though, that the best solution for the client when it comes to mobile is an app installed. I really do believe that. A little different on the mobile. I think that running a web-based app that lives through basically the browser on the mobile is not the best solution. That's my opinion, and we've done both and have both. I think the app is the better route.
Would you share with the audience why that is? Because I don't think that they might fully understand the technical aspects of why that is.
Yeah, the app. Again, let's go back to hard for the developer, easier for the end user. So from a developer standpoint, I hate the app. I hate having to build the app because, especially with Droid, you've got so many flavors of Droid. You've got so many devices. On Apple, you get to run on a somewhat closed environment. You know what to expect from the hardware. On Droid, there's your super cheap devices, and then there's your more expensive devices, and they all act differently. I mean, simply to the using your finger to touch the screen, some devices react better than others. There's a whole number of reasons why once you're within the Droid, you're running your app on a Droid product, there's a lot of frustration around it, trying to get it to work on all the devices. It's a little bit easier on Apple. Without question, it's easier on Apple. So again, this is hard for the developer. This is not my dream come true solution. I'd rather have a web-based solution that runs through the browser or maybe even looks like an app, but really isn't. It's just a shell that's running through the browser. So that would be better for me, but it's not better for the customer. Why is it not better for the customer? Well, one, it's really nice to have my data synced onto my mobile device because, as crazy as it sounds, Service Autopilots in the U.S. and Canada and Hawaii and all over, we're in Australia, New Zealand. We're really more focused on North America, but we have clients everywhere, all over the United States, all over Canada. Well, there are actually an amazing number of places that have slow internet connections, which is still surprising to me. And there's an amazing number of areas where guys still drop signal all the time. It's in and out. So it's really a nightmare when you have something that's mission critical or really important and you're having hiccups. Also, when you develop for the device, you can develop a much cleaner camera integration, in our case GPS integration with the GPS in the device, we do signature capture, so it's a much cleaner integration. It's just smoother. It's a nicer experience for the end user. So there's more reasons than that, but it enables us to do things we can't do with the web app, and then two, it creates a better user experience for the end user. And again, that's how we made the decision. That's why it's the best solution. That's why it was the best decision for us, because it was the best solution for our member, our client.
Where do you see your industry going? Where do you see the field service software industry going?
I think people are going to start to realize a couple things. One, if they're using an old desktop solution, that they can't keep up. The software vendor selling them desktop software can't keep up. And what most people don't understand is that the guy that's selling them desktop software has to start over. He has to start over like it's me starting my business all over, because a lot of times his developers can't make the transition to new technologies. He has to rewrite all his code, which means he introduces a whole new set of bugs. He has to go through everything I had to go through to get to where I'm at. And he's a mature business, but he's now starting over on a new platform and new technology. And so people are going to continue this migration away from desktop to software as a service companies like Service Autopilot, and they're not going to stay with their current provider. They're going to switch because most providers aren't making the transition fast enough, or when the provider tries to make that transition and stay within their company, it's a bad experience. So I think that companies like Service Autopilot, and there's others, and companies like us popping up were more affordable. The model used to be in a lot of field service scenarios, you pay $8,000 to buy a piece of software. Now you can get started for very little money, and we make a guarantee that you can try us out and leave after 30 days and get all your money back. Well, that just makes it easier for the guys that would have never spent the money on technology to actually implement now. And so I think that's the first shift, is you're going to see more and more people using technology other than QuickBooks and Excel spreadsheets. And there is no doubt that it used to be that a lot of people would run their business on QuickBooks, and now QuickBooks is becoming just accounting, and services like Service Autopilot are filling the gap and doing things that people used to rely on QuickBooks to do. And so that's a shift. People are shifting away from QuickBooks, and QuickBooks is now becoming just accounting, and they're relying on systems like us to run their business. And so as more tools like us become available, and as the market becomes more educated, and because our price points are very affordable to get into it, you're seeing a shift of more guys implementing technology that would have never done it in the past, or would have only used QuickBooks. And then when that shift happens, what happens next is, if you're my competitor and I'm using an advanced tool and you're not, then I'm doing incredible things you're not doing. I'm sending before and after pictures to my client. I'm doing signature capture from the field and receiving payment in the moment. I'm notifying my clients automatically that I'm going to be at their home in a couple days, and you're not. All of those things make me look better. All of those things build my reputation. Because my reputation's better, all my marketing works better. I sell more, and I start to outperform you. Because I make more money, I can afford to pay my employees more money, so I get the best employees in the marketplace. And it's this snowball effect. And it all starts with technology, or that's one of the elements, because that helps build a operation that runs smoothly and actually delivers incredible customer service, which then builds reputation. And it happens gradually, and most guys don't know what's hitting them. They don't know why their competitors are outperforming them. They can't put their finger on it. They think people are getting lucky. No, the guys that have strategy and are implementing technology and marketing and doing other things, they're winning. And there's a gap. It's just like the gap in the United States between the middle class and the rich. It's growing. It's expanding faster and faster. The same gap, kind of the 80-20 rule, it exists inside business. And the guys are implementing technology, and they're savvy, and they're doing the right things. The gap between them and all their competitors in their market is growing year after year. So there's a point where guys start to sort of realize it, usually too late, and then they start implementing technology. So that's the second shift that I see. One is there's a shift to more use of technology because guys can finally afford it, and there's actually some really cool technology now available. And then two, once they start to feel like they're getting left behind by the competitors that are savvy and first adopters, then they jump on the train and they implement. So that's the future of what I see. The great thing for business owners is by implementing this technology and now having tools they've never had available to them in the past, they can actually start to create better and more exciting businesses that ultimately deliver to them a better and more exciting lifestyle.
Really, the field service industry is one of many markets that is finally seeing the transformative effects of the internet having impact on their business, and the latest new generation of software as a service coming in and transforming your business. This is sort of a natural evolution of field service businesses.
Yeah, and we're talking about field service because that's the world I live in. But, I've got guys here on my team that, one of our main guys here on our team, he does some stuff with his church. And the other day we were looking at a piece of software that he runs that does stuff for the music departments in churches. And it's a SaaS solution for churches to keep up with their music programs, and it brings all this really cool convenience to a church. I mean, how often are we all sitting around thinking about what's going on inside the church? A church, the world of the church is even changing through software as a service type applications. You can go, there's markets out there that are invisible to us because we don't live in those worlds that are all being affected. We just happen to be talking about field service, but in whatever industry and whatever market you're in, there's probably something happening that hopefully you're paying attention to. There's probably things becoming available to you now that didn't exist a while back. And if you implement these things, they give you advantage over everyone else. And so our discussion is just an example of what's happening all over the world in every industry and every segment of every industry.
Jonathan, one of the things that you guys do at your company, and many software as a service companies do it, is that you offer different levels of monthly service. How did you determine what the different service levels would include and how much you should charge for those different service levels?
That's a great question. We're actually having this conversation right now because we're about to implement our third service level. So I believe, without question, from price psychology and different things that I've read and things I've learned through marketing that, and I realize there may be arguments against what I'm about to say, but as a general concept, I've really been programmed to believe that making 3 offerings is usually the best because you position your offering, the offering you want to drive the most number of clients, the most number of members to, is typically the one you position in the middle of your 3 offerings. So in our case, we have a startup and a pro. We're about to add a new membership called the Investor. It'll be a much higher end membership. And the idea is that then this startup and investor membership both have tremendous value, but they really pigeonhole our pro membership in a way that it makes it look it sort of pushes people to it because you have it now bumped between a low-end price offering and a high-end price offering, and so it really positions that price nicely. So I'll give you a great example. If I'm selling 3 things, or let's just use 2, I'm selling you 2 things, and Andrew, you're asking me if I could do something. Let's say at your condo you want me to install new windows on your condo, and I could come out and say, hey, Andrew, I can install these 20 windows you have in your condo. I could take care of this for you for $24,000. And so you have to digest for a moment the $24,000, and then I come back to you and say, well, Andrew, we could just step down a little bit here, and I could give you something that's pretty comparable. Yeah, it's not the high end. It's not what your neighbor here across the way that's in that $4 million penthouse up there's got in his place, but if you'd be willing to have a little bit less, I've got a $17,000 solution for you. Well, suddenly 17, or maybe it's 10,000, whatever that number is, it doesn't sound so bad now. And that's a little bit of the pricing that we've thought about is, okay, by creating a high-end offering that does deliver way more value than we're even charging for, that in of itself makes the other 2 offerings look more affordable and easier to, I guess, in a sense, get your head around. Say, yeah, I could easily afford that. So part of the multiple offerings is about pricing psychology and strategy. So that was part of it. Yes. I think that in terms of setting your price, part of it is thinking about that concept. We might consider having more than 1 or maybe even more than just 2 offerings for the analogy I just gave. Now, on the flip side, I have in my mind, I could easily come up with 5 or 6 really cool offerings, pricing levels for our business. But then I get into a different concern, and I think it's a book called Yes by Cialdini. Great book if you haven't read it. And he gives an example, and I hope I'm talking about the right book, but I think it's an example of where you send somebody, they go into a bakery and they're presented with all these different options of muffins and breads and such, and it's almost overwhelming. They can't make a decision. There's too many options. And whereas had you presented them, and I'm totally butchering this story, but the concept is correct, when presented with too many choices, too many options, you almost can't decide. You take forever to decide. You put it off. You maybe don't even bother making a decision. It's too hard. But when presented with just a couple options, it's either A or B, or A, B, or C, it's so much easier to get the buyer to take action now, this instant, this moment. So that's the other part of this is we want to present enough to position the offering we want to sell most in a light that most people will buy it and buy it now, but we don't want to present too much that will delay the buying decision or slow down the sales cycle. And then from there, regarding the other part of your question about pricing, honestly, it was about a hunch. In our case, our system is intentionally what I would describe as underpriced right now, but that was very much strategy. Our pricing is about to change, and it's going to start moving up for new members, existing or locked in. But where I'm going with this is this may not work for everybody, but in our case, we felt because of the size of the solution and the millions of dollars we're spending on development that we needed to have some level of critical mass in terms of clients as quick as we could. We didn't want to price the system too high where we had too small a number of clients that our feedback wasn't diverse enough that we might take the system in the wrong direction. So we needed a price point that was low enough to bring enough people in so that we could get enough people fast enough that we could have a diverse set of opinions from small clients and big clients in different industries. And so that was part of our pricing consideration. So I don't think in our case that we have nailed pricing. We're not at our sweet spot, but we were at the right spot for us to get enough clients fast enough with limited marketing that we could then not waste money on the development side building things that were not needed by the market.
That's great advice. And going back to what you said before, you don't want to overwhelm the consumer with too many options. And I see this happen quite a bit. This is the same advice that I give. Offer 3 levels of service. I do this in some of my own companies as well, as we offer 3 different levels of service and leave it up to the consumer to decide. And most often they do choose the middle level offering. Other key point here, and you can lay it out to Pareto's principle or the 80-20 rule, is that you always need to have a higher end offering. And I always stress this to people that I speak to in my coaching program is there's a percentage of your market, whether it's 10 to 20%, that will always opt for that higher option if you have one to offer them. So I don't believe in one-size-fits-all programs, service offerings or software as a service. I don't believe in one-size-fits-all. I believe that you do need to give them at least 3 different options, and you need to carefully decide what features you're going to include or what service level you're going to include within that price, but never one size fits all. If you do that, I feel you leave a lot of money on the table.
Yeah, I would totally agree with that. That's exactly what we've learned over time. And if you pay close enough attention to a lot of guys that really, truly test and try things, they will reinforce exactly that point. I don't even think it's up for debate at this point.